Welcome, everybody. I hope you had a good lunch. I want to start with a small video.
I don't think anybody who's a major internet company can live without having a major voice strategy. I think we're gonna be at dinner, we're gonna say a couple things. Not only are we gonna debate it, we're gonna eat. Think about how fun this is. We're eating. Should we go to Ibiza? Alexa, Google, Apple, Samsung, tell us about Ibiza. Literally, over the course of that dinner, we'll be educated about 5 places. Tell me about the Malfi Coast, tell me about we'll be educated, we'll decide, and then we'll say, Alexa, book it.
The video we just saw is from Gary Vee, is a social media guru, YouTube sensation, invested in Facebook, Twitter. The thing is, people like him, people like me, and some other people think that bots are the future. So we see this in the future. We don't know how we will get there, but we reasonably think will happen. As for me, I'm Fabrizio. I work for Spryker. I used to work for Rocket Internet and for Vodafone. And so today, I want to bring together some information and like a piece of puzzle so that we can try to piece them together. The first piece of the puzzle is, what is the role of a bot? We hear a lot about bots, and at a very simple level, I mean, a bot can communicate either with text or with voice. And that seems very simple, but is actually very revolutionary, because if you think in the latest decades, since the computer became used by normal people, the people had to learn how the computer works. And that is very, I mean, of course, it has to be like that, but it's very difficult. That's why it's not for everyone. In the latest 10 years with the mobile, we had a massive usage of exploding of internet and other things because it's become more affordable, not only in terms of price or UI, but because people use it. It's very simple. Things you had to do in Photoshop 5 years ago, you can do with an app today with a click. The next step that we see is bots. And for the thing is, the bots is revolutionary because it's trying to, meanwhile before, is the human being that has to understand how the machine works. Now the role is inverted, and is the machine that has to understand how the human speak and communicate. And that's actually the root of our civilization. It's how we communicate, how we evolve. And it will be more engaging for the user, and it will be more inclusive in the communication. So that's the revolution that is behind a simple thing like a bot. Another thing we want to do is to try to understand what is the trend. This is, for example, there are different statistics online, but this is the shifting of browsing between web and mobile. And practically we're 50-50, mobile is surpassing web. And if we compare this, for example, with which apps won in our phone, they're messenger apps. In the latest 4 years, Facebook Messenger got from 0 to 1.5 billion. WhatsApp has 1.5 billion active users. WeChat, the Chinese one, has 1 billion. If we look at voice bots, in only 2 years, 2 years and a half, Amazon has brought Alexa from like an internal technology to a broader public, and now they have up to 25,000 skills. UK, they have slightly less, 1/3 of that, and Germany is a very young market. We have only 12% of what Americans have. That means there is a lot of possibilities for developers, for companies, for businesses. So if we think like, this is the trend, but we might think bot is really difficult to do. But actually we solve the things that the bots needs are already partially solved in what we bring in as experience in web and mobile. For example, when we want to search for a product, we can provide this information from a full text search. Of course, we need to add the conversational part, but we already have a very advanced full text search that can autocomplete, can find missing, I don't know, if you say a brand and that brand is not there, I try to match another one, and so on. The same is for the product details. The product detail of a bot has to be very small, but we improved really a lot on e-commerces to present the right data. Going further with, for example, the cart and checkout. Nowadays, if you are, a customer registered to that particular web e-commerce, and you use it every day or every month or every week, you can check out with 1-2 clicks, and the bot, that has to be possible. All the e-commerces have behind an infrastructure for customer sale, for after-sales action, shipment, returns, that these can be brought into the bot. And I will show how potentially this is the right way to communicate. But you might ask yourself, well, that's what we have, but what do we need to do? Why we need to do it? You need to do because as any business nowadays, you need to evolve. You will be forced to evolve anyway. If you think on web, we used to present, even nowadays, like 50 results, and you browse through them. But on mobile, it's too much. So the quantity and that you have to display, it's way less. The interface has to be simpler. In a very simple interface like the bot, you can display only 3 results. And you have to display the right results. That's why you have to work as a business, trying to understand, based on what the user asks, which is the real product he wants. Or response time. On web, with the Ajax and everything, 2 seconds is acceptable. On mobile, 300, 500 milliseconds. For example, if the connection is not good. The bot has to be immediate. Like, it has to answer in 100 milliseconds. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to provide all the actions in 100 milliseconds, but the first answer, has to be in 100 milliseconds. So when he asks something, you need to answer back, to sign that you read the message, answer something back, for example, I'm placing the order. And so that's what you have to do. You have to be fast. Your technology, your architecture has to be fast. As we did the example before for checkout, you can have like different steps on web. You need to have a simpler one on mobile, and you have to have one click buy, one word buy for the bot. One of the things that you might think is like, okay, this is happening, the bots, I understand, there is a shifting. But you also need to understand that you have been granted a possibility because there is technically kind of a war between the giants. Because Google is worried that Alexa will become the next search, as Gary Vee said before. But for example, if you think a younger generation, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, someone see a pair of shoes and an advertisement or something, then it can just ask, yeah, well, I would like to see who sells these shoes nearby. That's the kind of reactiveness that your business will need, because it will happen. It most likely, even from USA, it will happen that it's very competitive. But you need to understand that this war is played with many devices, many technologies. For example, Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, they are all competing at different levels. They are providing you, for example, a platform like the Messenger or Alexa. They are providing you cloud services. They are providing you AI. And they do because now they try to take a land. They try to take a share of this market. Then we might agree one day on standards and other things, but nowadays there are no rules. And you can take this opportunity. Yeah, business. Another piece of the puzzle is we think of bots as either ways is like chatbots are too simple, voice bots might be too verbose. And if you're a business and you want to start building a bot, you need to think which are the similarities and the differences of these bots, because that will give imprinting how you will start to build your bot. So if we want to speak about similarities, the main thing is you will need to convey small information. We kind of said before, you cannot present a product detail page that has too many information. You want to give to the user, you want to give to the user the right amount of data for him to choose the product. In the same way, if you think of other business cases like travel, the person is traveling, the person is in a hurry, and he needs some information about his, I don't know, his flight, then you need to convey the information very shortly and very precise. Sorry? Why sometimes does it work, sometimes doesn't? It's not working anymore. Okay, sorry. Another thing is the user want to ask for the info. Not much myself, but I think everybody is overloaded with notification information and so on. So you get like to the point where you cannot filter anymore what is important and what is interesting for you. And if you think even younger generations, you can see that they are used to Messenger, they're used to chat, they're used to communicate with the bots. And they want to ask for information. They don't want to be pushed to have this information. Another thing is the time interaction is short. That kind of goes in the direction that if you convey the right information, you might not have a funnel of success. If you say, when is my shipment arriving? You say tomorrow. I believe few people are gonna answer like thank you. So you can analyze the sentiment, but if you compare to the web browsing, you will see that the time interaction in the bot is actually shorter. In the Alexa skills, for example, you use the skill, and when you finish, the Alexa close. They are studying a way to have it more responsive, but that's actually what it is now. So the time interaction is shorter. And another thing, this is a key concept we will see also later, is the chatbots communicate with text, and the platform give you in clear. Meanwhile, Alexa and Google communicate with intents. This is practical in action, get shipment info. You can build these intents giving variables that are called slots. And if you want, for example, to start building something, you might think for the chatbot to transform what you have in input into intents using AI to give intents. So you can build an intent manager for your business that can work with any platform. If we watch for the differences, voice is better for informative skills, for entertaining, for something that it's funny, or it probably won't even generate revenues. Yeah, and so it's more verbose, but it's also more like it doesn't have to be something that is like in the chatbot. You might give the right information because the person is on the run, for example, during a travel, but an Alexa skill about traveling can start describing the place and the prices and what is good to see in the city. Also, voice, as we say, it is a longer message interaction than chatbots. And making the example of the traveling, even the use case is different. The user is in a different environment, so it might be more stressed, it might be more relaxed, there might be noise around him. So you need to take these into consideration when you're building your bot, if you want to build for both, that you cannot apply the same pattern to both, because the user is in a different state of mind. And also, as we said before, there is a different technologies, so you need to narrow it down to these intents. Now, you can say, well, this is the first two pieces of the puzzle, but what is a realistic usage? Why should I do it? let's take a few use cases. You wake up, you take your mobile, you go to work, you check your mobile in Subway. I see today someone, for example, checking an email and trying to open Gmail, and it was not loading because you are in Subway. So let's make an example. You want to buy a parfum for your wife. And so you go on the website, you check, you say, it's out of stock, I want a notification. So then you get an email when you're at work, but there is your boss screaming to you, and you're super busy. You might forget, or you might not. But they say it's not a relaxed experience for you. And then the evening, after dinner, you get on the sofa, you might check the emails from the notification, and you say, oh, my shipment is late. So one of the things that you can try to fill these gaps of the journey of a user. So with a chatbot, if today the person would have had a chatbot, it wouldn't have had to open Gmail, see the notification on the website, would just have got a notification. The product you wanted is back in stock. Do you want to buy? Yes. Done. It's in your cart, maybe. Then when you get to work, you check out with your credit card, you're done. The same, when you come back home, you try to relax a little. Maybe you're cooking for your wife. And you might say, Alexa, where is the shipment of my products? I mean, Alexa might say, well, it's been shipped today, or it's late. And she might try to, kind of upselling the experience and say, well, I can send you a few other suggestions. And then when you get on the iPad, you have to have a more relaxed and more engaging experience. But, for example, if we want to take like real examples, let's take a shoe shop. If you take a shoe shop, this is like a reasonable example of how chatbot for shoe shops should work. And you can notice already two things that are completely different from web. The first one is you should narrow down the search before giving results. That's because, as we said, you have only 3 results to present. And you cannot give 50 and then filter by color, by brand, by price. You need to ask, and then you will have to find for your own business. You need to ask the few key information you want to narrow it down so you can give the best option. And another thing that I checked, it happens rarely today, and it happens mostly on recommendation. If you search something that doesn't exist in that shop, you get recommendations, that's true, but these recommendations are not very well done, or only in some cases are well done. For example, I searched on Zalando a pair of shoes, a color, and a size, and was not there, and it was just an empty search. When you search something that they have similar, they give you like, I want Nike, I want Adidas. So, but to say that each business has to narrow it down to a way where if you ask for Nike Black 42, you have to understand 42 is the size, you cannot change it. And maybe if you don't have black, you want gray. If you don't have Nike, you want Adidas. And that's just to give this to the user, you already need to revolutionize the way your system works. Another example, and this is actually, it happened to me. I bought a table, a little expensive, table for the kitchen, and the shipment got lost. It actually got, I didn't get the right information, they didn't find me at home, they bring it back to the warehouse, and then I had to call, pass few calls, few emails, and after like a week, they shipped again. And then I had to take an appointment with the courier that was bringing it. If you think about, for example, the user experience for a normal user, it could just go on the chatbot, on the bot, and says, well, where is my shipment? And the bot automatically, you can feed, for example, there are some tools, you can feed automatic FAQ answers. You can say, well, your shipment will be delivered in 2 days or whatever. You can get the shipment information. But in this case, it's like, OK, there is a problem with your shipment. The bot might not be able to understand what happened, so it can pass seamlessly to a human operator, and that will introduce herself, in this case, and check the shipment. It has been returned to our warehouse. And she might say, well, there was a problem with your address, so can you give me your right address? Then a few days pass by, And the driver is supposed to deliver that table the same very day. So through his own phone, and of course you have to build the technology to communicate through the chatbot, you can say, well, I'm John. I'm on today as, I don't remember the example, at 9 a.m. I want to bring the table. And you say, well, I cannot, tomorrow I cannot at 9 a.m. What about 5 p.m.? Yes, no problem. I will notify you half an hour. This kind of experience is seamless. The user won't notice. The user will be super happy. And you can use that. This is where you have to think to go. Now we go a little more on the technical. That is kind of the last part. And not very technical. It's more to understand what is out there as technologies. And so you might ask, OK, now I have 3 pieces of a puzzle. How do I start? So my suggestion is that you find a use case, very simple use case. Like you want to find, like as we said, you want to give the shipment information. You want to populate something with the FAQ questions. And you find it, you go live. Your users are going to use it. They're going to tell you what they like, you might add this information. And so the sooner you start, the smaller is the use case, probably the better. Although you need to think about branding, even if you don't see it too much, you might want to think, you need to think about the name. You need to think about, which icon I'm going to use. For example, if it's a chatbot, you can give some emoticons, some animated GIF, and you can do branded. You can have a designer doing for you. And the branding is like if you choose the name, for example, you need to choose a name that might sound good, like for a chatbot and voice bot, because maybe Alexa has to. You say Alexa, open whatever is the name of the brand. And the difference between big businesses and small businesses is, if you have a very big business, you might choose something like a mascot or a part of your business. You won't create like a Nike or, I don't know, chatbot, but it's like a Nike shoes chatbot. Or if something is personalized, like imagine like Berlin city can do Berlin Bear. And you have a Berlin Bear, it's even funny, you feel good, you feel comfortable. And that's the way you have to think for a bot. The last part is the tone. So you need to think how you want to communicate with your users. So, for example, one thing that happens in the customer care sometimes is you have a very formal tone in the email, and then maybe the customer care is not up to the same tone. Maybe they're very friendly or they're very rude. The chatbot, in both cases, has to give a tone that is consistent. If your audience is young, you have to use the young slangs. If your audience is more formal, for example, you create a bot for business meetings, you have to be more formal. Another thing is, as we said before, is you might want to start designing your backend. So the good news is you can create this chatbot practically by itself. It's like a normal application, just a controller, something that gives information. But my suggestion by direct experience is to create a cache layer in front. Even if it's not web, you still need a cache layer. It's about the information you're going to give. For example, if you ask, I don't know, the price of a tour or something, the price of the shoes, you might want to put this information in a cache that lives for at least 5 minutes, 3 minutes, so that if a user type again by mistake, you're not going to query the backend again. And this also, for example, in chatbots, you want to use a queue. Because as we say, you want to answer immediately. So what you do, you save this information. You say, OK, user asked for this. I answer immediately. Is this response? And I'm going to give immediately, like I'm checking or whatever information you want to convey. And then there is a backend that retrieves this information from either the database or some external API, and then send another response. And it's totally fine to give 2 responses. We have seen before, to give 2 responses into messages, especially when the 2 responses means 2 different things. Don't try to write a longer text. If we think which API you want to connect, there is this incredible tool called with AI. It's used also by Facebook. And this allows you to go there, populate automatically with information your website already has, like FAQ, forum, social media. You feed to it, it takes some time, and then you can make any question, and you really get which answer match better to this question. Of course, if you want to go a little more advanced, you can use IBM Watson. They have an API for everything, from natural language processing, image processing, conversational, you name it, they have it. If you want to build for Google home devices, you need to use Dialogflow. It's kind of between with AI and IBM Watson, but also you can use this for other platforms. Like Dialogflow allow you to build a Facebook Messenger app. And then you have AWS, you have Amazon. They have not only Alexa, they have a set of API for everything, for speech to text with the same voice of Alexa. They have, as we say, the natural language processing, face recognition, everything. And then you might want to have your API. If you have a shop and you need to create some API, I would suggest a RESTful API. I even did another talk that is linked here. But the thing is that you need some API to about the product, about the prices, about the shipment. So that's what you need to start doing, especially for the chatbot. Another thing I found myself explaining to people when I was telling about this talk was some people thought you need like deep learning, neural networks. In reality, you don't. As we can see, some are subset of other disciplines, but you can just start with natural language processing. There are also tools that you can install in your own system, in your architecture. There are tools we've seen before. And the natural language processing is important because it understands the language, and it can narrow it down to this intent. Then I'm not an expert in machine learning, but just to give you a small clue, you need the supervised learning. For example, in the case of customer care, you need to have a data scientist, and you need to analyze the cases of success and what did go wrong, the sentiment during the communication. And then you do a supervised learning. It means you take this data, you clean it. The data scientist will make an algorithm, and then even ask some human being to rate how accurate is the response from the machine learning. Once you're really good at that, you can do unsupervised learning. That means that the algorithm will learn by itself, even with data that doesn't match the structure, the clean structure you have before. You don't need at this stage deep learning or neural networks, only if you play chess. Another thing I wanted to show, it's very simple. We are almost at the end. It's how do you build an Alexa skill? I tried a few times some time ago, and it was kind of complicated. I didn't know much. So you go on Amazon, you search for Alexa skill creator. You start inserting these sentences, like, I want to eat this food, we have popcorn, we have to have the hackathon later. I want popcorn salty. And you put these slots that are variables. Then this creator will give you a JSON that you put inside this amazing website called Skillinator. Yeah, the name's a little funny. And it will create a Lambda function with placeholder. Now, I don't know if you can see. No, you can't. But here, it's like all the variables already parsed. And then you put this inside the Lambda function. So you have placeholder. You actually have a giant if-else. If the action is this, like select concrete, then do this action. And then you can just link to your API. You just need to have your shop. You have some API. Give me the product. And so it's easier if you already know this is the flow you have to follow. But when you want to build an Alexa skill, there is a dialog. So the dialog, now it seems more complicated because there are a lot of errors. But this is actually to say, I want popcorn. What do you want, popcorn or nachos? I want salty popcorn. Do you confirm? Yes, I confirm. This is the dialog. So the first thing you have to do, you have to start building the dialog. You need to start building the dialogue, which are the potential errors, and that's because if you want to build a voice skill, you need to know, what will be the user journey. And you need to be aware that in the thing we saw before, part of the dialogue will be inside the skill creation, so it's like in the JSON. Some other parts are inside the Lambda function, and the last part is inside your application. So good luck when you have to update them. But yeah, that's the main thing. Is you need to be aware of this so you can build the right interaction for the user. I want to practically finish with giving you some advices about some books. So you will be able to download this presentation. And you can check out these books that are very interesting. And now, I hope with this speech that we have the puzzle solved, that you need to understand the needs of your business, the use case, how you want to communicate, and then you can start. You need to be aware of the similarities and differences between voice and chatbots. You need, in my opinion, start now. That means if you're not participating to the hackathon, you need to go home and start doing tonight. But really, start now. Your competitor might already have started. So you start small, you learn. Maybe it's not your use case. You are, rare case that you don't need a chatbot. But you need to find out by yourself. But to do that, you need the architecture. I have seen many companies where the architecture is not up to the task. It's barely up to present for web. And some backend are really messy. You need to, as a business, you need to take care of this. If you are not doing it, you have to do it, for sure. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Of course, if you have a Spryker, it's a little better. And yeah, as I said, we have a hackathon immediately after. So if you want to see how Spryker works with the Alexa skill, you can. I don't know if there are slots free for participating, but sure, you can attend and watch. And you can take the QR code, the links, there will be the presentation, everything. And then any questions? Question? No? Nobody. OK. No questions. Then I would like to thank everyone for coming here today. I want to thank my company, because allowed me to play with these bots. And I would like to thank my wife, because she has been very patient when I was very busy preparing this speech. Thank you.